So welcome to Kinderdijk. We are here on UNESCO World Heritage Site and I am here to invite you to visit this area. I am Jan Willem de Winter and I started here 6 years ago as a miller on one of these windmills, and now I am head of the product development of this foundation that owns all the buildings in this area. So when I was 9 I already want to become a miller, so I was helping an old miller to teach me the job, and so that was the way how I learned to become and to really run a windmill by my own. I'm very proud to show you this area because it's a really special area that is with a history of centuries ago, and all parts are still complete. Already in the 14th century they made 2 canals here by hand to bring the water out of the area, because the half of the country is below the sea level. So on this place now we are standing on top of the visitor center. We are just 1 meter above the normal sea level. If you look at the people that are walking over there, they walk 2 meters below the sea level. So it's an extreme idea that the half of the country, all the people live below the sea level here. But we are used to that. But we had to get rid of all the excess water. So when rainwater falls on the area and it is below the sea level, then it would be flooded, of course. So that is why already in the 14th century they made these canals to bring the water with sluices to the big river Lek. So when the tide on the river was low enough, they could bring the water on the river. But since 1700 they need to make basins also to store the water. When the tide of the river was still too high, then they could store the water to wait till it was low enough. That is the area you can see here and also here. They could fill that with water and wait till the river was low enough to bring it again with sluices on the river. So what you can see here is a polder. That is an area below the sea level with a dike around it. We need a windmill to pump the water out of the polder into the first canal. We have here, this windmill is one of our visitor windmills, so we are going to visit that today. And this is a very old one from 1630 that pumps the water from the polder level into the first level of the canal. So that's almost 1 meter higher than the level of the polder. This lower canal is connected with this area, and here you can see a row of windmills that bring the water together from this canal into the first basin. That is again a difference in height of 1.5 meter. You can see those windmills. Those are built in 1738 because they need them to bring the water up to the basins, and with a dike around the basin it is again possible to bring the water high enough to bring it on the level of the river. When the river tide is just above the low canal and you pump it 1 step higher, you can bring it with the sluices on the river. It is very complicated here because we have on the other side the same idea with a canal and also a row of windmills. You can see that one are not built in brick. They are built in 1740, so 2 years later, and they are all octagonal and with thatched roofs. But they do the same. They pump the water from the canal into a higher basin that can bring the water on the river. So here you can see 8 windmills that work together to bring the water into the higher basin. So since 1868 we also have 2 steam pumping stations in the area because the capacity of the windmills was not enough, and it always depends on the wind, of course. So with that steam pumping stations they could pump the water also from the lower canal up to the higher basins and then into the river. And we have now the modern pumping stations We have one with diesel engines and one electric. You can see the diesel pumping station over there. They are still operational. So that means when there is enough rainwater, it starts and it pumps the water out of the lower canal directly into the river. So the modern pumping station that can pump 1.5 million liters of water in every minute. That means that it has the capacity of 30 windmills together. So 16 of the windmills are still inhabited by families, and some of them are descendants of the last millers of Kinderdijk. So I don't live in one of the windmills. I live in the village Kinderdijk in one of the normal houses, and all the houses in the village Kinderdijk are built by the shipbuilding company. So my colleague Henny will take you with the barge on a trip to Museum Windmill Blokweer, and I hope you really enjoy that. You will meet a miller also, and he will explain you everything.
Welcome on board of the Antina. Okay, we are about to take off to our second museum windmill. There is not much wind, but there is another factor, and that is that on this moment the vessels are pumping water away. This is why Kinderdijk exists with all these windmills. There is only one thing important here, and that's pumping water. But now we have to deal with the current in the water, which is about 2 miles an hour on the smallest part of the water, and you will see that later on when we pass two narrow bridges. Okay, welcome on board of the Antina. This is a very old lady built in 1895, a number of years before the Titanic was built, but she's still lasting. It was starting as a sailing vessel driven by a mainsail and a jib and used for transporting all kind of goods in this area. Until 1942, then it got a diesel engine built in, and that was used until the early 60s. As of then, it was used as a homeboat in one of the canals in Amsterdam until 1985, and as of that year it was resting in a nautical museum in Rotterdam until 2017, and then we got our hands on it and we did some redecoration with a little financial help of Viking, and we built in a fully electric engine. My duty is today to bring you to our second museum windmill. I'm one of the 220 volunteers who do all kind of things for our foundation. Our foundation is owner of everything you see here, all the 19 windmills, and you are going to visit the second museum windmill. In order to do that safely, I would ask you to remain seated. The windows can be opened, but please keep inside all your body parts. We want to return with the same body parts as we take off. So I wish you a pleasant journey. Hello Mark.
Good morning, Henny. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Welcome in this windmill, everybody. My name is Mark, I'm the miller. I will tell you something about the windmill, how it works and how it was in the 50s when they lived here inside the windmill. Please follow me. Well, over here we are in the inside of the windmill. This is the living part. The windmill is totally made out of wood, And around us we can see how the family in the past, in the 50s, lived here in the inside. A kitchen, a tiny living room, a tiny bedroom over there, and behind me the wooden transmission for the windmill. Well, over here we see the mill is running with full sail. Nice winter day. The mill is pumping the water out of the ditches. That's the lower land. That's 2 meters 10 below sea level. This wheel, the scoop wheel, takes this water out, pumps it 1 meter higher and flows out in the lower basin behind us. Everything by wind power. Over here we see the construction of the windmill on the outside. It's possible to move the whole cap, the whole construction, 360 degrees in the wind, because the wind is changing every day. We can do that with this big wooden wheel and the 2 chains on this way. It's also possible to stop the windmill, because when it's turning too fast we have to stop the windmill. It's possible to do that with this rope. It's a braking system inside the cap, and we can stop the mill in less than 30 seconds. Over here we can see the sails. This is what we use for catching the wind when the wind is not strong enough. Now we see a full sail, but when the mill is turning too fast, so too much speed, we can stop the mill and then we can make the sails a little bit smaller, like half. And now we have a half sail. Okay, this was the end of the tour. I hope you enjoyed my story, and we hope we can see you soon in a real life. Thanks for visiting. Goodbye.
So welcome back. I hope you really enjoyed your trip to the windmill. So you are welcome with all your questions about this beautiful area.